Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and this is part 2 of my mini-series on World of Warships and some fun gameplay and tactics that the game entails. Now, in this video I'll be talking about some gunplay mechanics and some even torpedo tactics that you can use for your cruisers and your destroyers and things like that. So let's get right to it. Remember, broadside presents the best firing position, but it also presents the best target for the enemy. And obviously, leading your shots at a distance becomes a factor, especially if the other guy is maneuvering. Obviously, you don't have to take every shot you see. Sometimes it's better to just, hang back and save your ammo if the other guy isn't too good of a target at the moment. Wait until he turns. And if you're not sure you're going to hit him, you can just use a single shot to range him without, having to fire a full salvo and wasting time between reloads. Now, a couple of interesting points to keep in mind here. The Alt key is a very useful function. It will range your target and it will also give you the hang time or the flight time of your rounds through that distance, which is useful in leading because, rounds take a whole bunch of time getting down range. And now, it's also useful because it instantly shows the names and classes of all ships, friendly and enemy, so you will know what you're up against, potentially what ammo type to use. And as a battleship is the biggest and baddest, gunfighter among warships, but still having its own drawbacks, you can sort of minimize some of the risks associated with it. Obviously, battleships are big, slow ships, which make for a very good target to shoot at, for the enemy, so you must always be aware of what the enemy is trying to do and which way he's trying to go. Never rush into an attack single-handedly, and always try to keep as close to your teammates as possible. Now, this is easier said than done because especially lower tier battleships are very, very slow and they won't turn worth a damn. So, sticking close to your teammates is very, very hard and you'll be likely left behind in a hurry. In fact, the whole class of battleship is made to shoot at a good distance, I'd say, without getting into fighting into the, good middle of the fighting, because once you get right into it, the tiny destroyers, the enemy is gonna run circles around you and pile so many torpedoes on you they'll be coming out of every orifice at once, and then some. So, battleships, as I said, especially the starting ones in World of Warships, seem to be very, especially the American battleships seem to be extremely underwhelming. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that the South Carolina is a piece of crap. I mean, it's basically 3 points for the other team. It won't be able to, put up any fight at all. It's incredibly slow. In fact, I have a feeling I can walk faster even with my disabilities. It's an incredibly incredibly slow to turn. Its rudder speed. It's also incredibly slow to aim and turn its turrets, and it will also burn at the drop of a hat. So, a single direct hit will set it on fire. And in fact, the Japanese battleships seem quite a bit better, at least when you compare the Miyogi, I believe. It's way faster, and as far as guns go, it's a little bit better. And this actually brings me to another point. Since a battleship's guns are very slow to traverse to the other side and aim at the target, you should always choose the side you will likely do battle on, and in the beginning of the round fix your guns to that sector, or better yet, fix them to relatively to your ship, so they don't turn at all when you get into battle, until you get into battle, by pressing Ctrl X. Now it's gonna take about 30 seconds for them to traverse anyway, so that's a good move to do to get yourself ready for battle before it starts. Another thing here is that you don't want to salvo fire all your turrets sequentially or at once. Reason being that because a battleship's guns are so spread out height and lengthwise, the shells they put down will all land at different places unless you are perfectly parallel to the target and right across it, which just about never happens. This is called splicing, and it happens also because the target ship is so narrow, and as I said, your own turrets are so spread out along your own ship. So, maybe the forward guns will hit and the rear guns won't, and, completely missing the target, forcing you to wait for an agonizingly slow reload. So, fire them individually and not in a single salvo. Also, there is another useful key for aiming your guns and switching to binoculars. Instead of running your finger over the mouse wheel to zoom in and out all the time as I do, wasting your time between zooming in and out and switching targets, you can just press shift to instantly zoom in and out to your maximum preset level of zoom in and out of binoculars to without waiting for a very long time until you rotate the whole mouse wheel and zoom in and out of target, as I said, wasting your time. Now, actually interesting thing, in this game the mechanics of the AP rounds are very, very particular. They what AP rounds will do is they will cause very inconsistent damage to the target. Now, generally what they do is put holes in the hull, so they are not always the best choice of ammo to use. Now, at some angles, some very, very, oblique angles, they will actually bounce off the target's armor or deck, so you're gonna get incredibly little damage with the AP rounds. In that case, HE rounds are the way to go. Now, AP rounds are in fact useful in some very limited situations where you can put holes in some very, very particular areas of the ship. Now, for example, the citadel or the armored hull center of the ship where they keep either the machinery or the ammo stores is a very good target for AP rounds because it is very armored, so it won't usually get penetrated by HE rounds, and, well, on most ships, except the lighter ones. And once you put an AP round through that citadel, it will make all that ammo go off, and it will just cause massive amounts of damage to the ship. But, other than that, if the rounds actually bounce off the ship like, so much raw piece, I suppose, it won't matter much, if you hit it or not. So, as a good rule of thumb would be to use HE rounds on most targets except the ones you can't penetrate where the armor is too thick, where the HE round won't penetrate, and you must use an AP round, something like if you want to hit the citadel directly on where it does quite a bit of damage, the AP round will, because otherwise the HE round does quite a good and consistent amount of damage anywhere else, regardless of armor, and to targets like aircraft carriers whose decks are generally wooden. You'd set fire to that thing and it would burn for days and days and days. So, a good rule of thumb would be if you're a cruiser to shoot HE at destroyers, battleships, and carriers, as I said, and shoot AP at cruisers because, well, you want to penetrate that citadel. And if you're a destroyer, you probably want to shoot HE at everything as you want to, kind of light it up. On the other hand, if you're a battleship, you should shoot HE at destroyers only and AP at everything else. The reason being that battleships generally have a higher arcing gun, which if you load with AP rounds, they will just kind of, arc so much that when you hit a target with plunging fire, they will go directly down through the deck. And this will cause a nice amount of damage if you can, hit it dead on. Now, after hearing all this, you might say, well, why use HE rounds at all if AP rounds go through armor much better and can cause a lot more damage than HE rounds to armor targets, because, all ships have some armor, more or less. You see, the problem is overpanning, and that is a problem when that happens when an AP round hits a softer target, not something as armored as, let's say, a citadel. Overpanning happens when an AP round goes completely through an unarmored target and out the other side, exploding somewhere underwater, and on the way it causes much less damage than, well, anything an HE round really. So for that reason, it's much better to just set those targets on fire and use an HE round instead. The big things like aircraft carriers, those are very good targets for HE rounds because they usually have wooden decks and will burn for quite a while. If you use an AP round on it, on the other hand, it might just, make a lot of holes in the empty spaces of the boat and come clean out the other side, not doing a lot of damage. Now, as far as the reloads go, there's also an interesting feature here. You can load HE or AP rounds into the cannons by double tapping 1 or 2 to select that type of ammo, and as you would in any other game, I suppose. And as you do, they will take a few seconds to load all the shells in immediately. If, however, you press 1 or 2 keys only once, that is, you don't double tap it, that type of ammo will load into the main cannon after the next time you fire it, saving you on immediate reload times, which can add up quickly because you have to take out the previous round and load in the new round. In this situation, the next round loads in after you fire the previous one. Now, firing can happen in several flavors. You have your single shell shot just by clicking the left mouse button once. You have your salvo of all turrets sequentially by double clicking the left mouse, and you have your salvo of all turrets at once by holding down the left mouse button, I believe. Now, leading is very important, as I said, because these shells will travel relatively slowly to the target, and you kind of have to guess where the target is going to be and what it's going to do in the future to hit it. For example, if it's reversing its turn and you aim the other way but don't lead as much, if it's a fast ship, you really have to lead a lot, and if it's closing in on you at an angle, you have to lead lead it not only to the side but also forward a little bit, or down in this case. So you really have to think how to put your shots down range before you fire everything, because all the ammo has a cooldown time to reload, obviously, and it's better to wait till the target presents a better angle or a better target of itself before firing the cannons. But don't forget to play defensively pretty much all of the time, because don't just focus on the target non-stop. You will get piled onto and get hit from all sides quicker than a rabbit gets fucked. Now remember, your own ship doesn't exactly maneuver like a Mini Cooper, and it's more of an elephant on ice skates. You mostly don't have to maneuver too much, but sometimes you really will have to put in some crazy evading maneuvers when you're trying to dodge torpedoes or enemy fire. Now, this is a bit tricky, and once those torpedoes, are in the water, you have to do some fancy footwork not to get hit, or get hit as few times as you can, because mostly the torpedoes come in several pairs. Now, what this means is that you will have to turn directly into the torpedo's path, or exactly the opposite, turn your ass or stern to the torpedo. And look at me being a regular swabby using the correct lingo. Well, the point is that you will need to either instantly speed up or stop on a dime and turn hard to port or starboard, which is left or right respectively, but you also need to think. Now, I got very lucky a couple of times playing against AI, playing co-op. As you can see, still the torpedoes are, lethal whether they come from AI or humans. But I will cover torpedoes in a little more depth, pun intended, in the next episode of World of Warships miniseries. So see you there, hopefully, and thanks for watching. Please rate and share these videos, that helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.